name is Katherine, and this is part one of a two-part video series that we put together particularly for stress management for cardiac and pulmonary rehab. So in this video, we're going to discuss one of possible three ways that we can address not only recognizing stress when it's happening, when it's starting to build up in us, but also what we can do about it. So let me just explain very briefly that stress has its arms and everything, right? We feel it in a variety of different ways, but there's some ways that we can experience it immediately and recognize and then interfere with that stress response. So one of the first things that we notice that when we get a little anxious or impatient or stressed is that our musculature tightens up, right? Some tension starts to build in our body. So we're today going to talk a little bit about and then also practice when we recognize this tension in our body, just simply being aware of it and then letting it go, right? So already if we're noticing that we're tense and then we let the muscles relax a little bit more, we're doing something about stress. In other words, we're managing it. It sounds so simple, but it really is, because our body has a reaction, right? And then we're doing something different. So it backs us off from going further down that path that we're calling stress. So we'll do some really basic movements that are accessible just about to anyone. We'll do those in a few minutes. And the second area that I'd like to focus us in on today is very much related to tension in our body, and that is our breathing. So we're breathing all the time, right? We don't have to think about our breath. But when we get stressed or anxious, right, or surprised or impatient, right, or overwhelmed, we begin to breathe differently. So just like the tension building in our body, tension builds in our breath pattern. And believe it or not, that tension that builds in our breath pattern creates what's called a disordered breathing pattern, right? And so typically a person will begin to breathe more rapidly, right? So more quickly, and also more shallow, right? So the breath isn't dropping deeper into our lungs, but it's kind of staying along the upper lobes of the lungs. And that in itself, just by breathing that way, slow and shallow, can create tension or can create a stressful mind state. So let's take those two things, muscular tension and breath, and recognize this is what it looks like. This is what our body and our breath do when we're tensed up or when we're starting to get stressed, and then let's do something differently. And I encourage you to practice these types of things throughout the day. So you're not waiting all the time for, when you're in the midst of like a stressful situation to practice it only then, but to practice a little bit every day so that you start recognizing stress at the beginnings rather than getting into it too far. All right, so what I'd like to just spend a few minutes talking about, and then we'll practice together, is what happens when we breathe with tension, and how is breath happen when we're more relaxed. Believe it or not, we might have forgotten, because a lot of us, many of us, right, get used to breathing in a tense way all the time, and we consider that normal. And whether we're aware of it or not, it's having a direct and immediate impact on our state of mind. So let's do a little experiment. I know that you're getting excellent training and great information in the program that you're in. So I know that the practitioners around you are educating you on your breathing and where your diaphragm is. So I'm just going to kind of take it from there, okay? So as you already know, right, your diaphragm sits right in the middle of your torso, right? And if you take your first two fingers and just trace the bottom of your rib cage all the way around to the back, you're getting a sense of not only where the diaphragm is, but about its shape as well. So the diaphragm sits and it connects along the bottom edge of your rib cage. So that tells you that the diaphragm isn't this, straight across flat muscle, but rather it's more like a dome, and it attaches all the way around. And fortunately, Mother Nature designed us so that we can't touch our diaphragm directly, right? It sits inside of the bottom edge of the rib cage. And here's what happens. This, for our example, is our diaphragm, okay? I'm just kind of using my hand as mimicking the shape of the diaphragm, the shape and the action. So when we breathe in, when we take an inhale, our diaphragm actually presses down, right? And what we might experience is that our abdomen just pushes out a little bit. And we might even experience the sides of our body fill up a little bit, as well as the back of our lungs fill up a little bit. So all around the diaphragm, everything expands out. And then when we breathe out, when we exhale, the diaphragm relaxes back up to that shape that we started with. So the diaphragm moves like this. Inhale, it presses down, and exhale, it rises up a little bit. And what we experience is that we may not experience the diaphragm per se, right? We may not feel that muscle moving in us, but what we do feel is that sense of air coming in and filling up the lungs. And then as air presses out, we feel almost like a little bit of a contraction. Okay, so we get a sense of three-dimensional filling up and then contracting back in. Let's give that a try, all right? So however you're comfortable, if it's comfortable for you to sort of kind of wrap your thumb around the sides of your ribs like so and let your fingers press forward, do that. If that isn't comfortable for you to hold that position, simply here is a good position, right? Just put your hand just kind of below your sternum. So either way. And if you would like to, I'm going to invite you to close your eyes, and that way you can bring your attention to your breath and not be distracted by looking at the video or anyone else in the room. And I have my eyes closed as well. So here's the deal. Just begin to let your body relax as best as you can. And I know that's sometimes hard, right? Sometimes we just can't get relaxed. So as best as you can, focus your attention on your abdominal muscles. Just do that for a moment. And let your abdominal muscles soften. Let them relax. And also feel your shoulders drop down as well. And however you have your hands are also rather relaxed. Now what I'd like you to look for with your hands is movement. So every time you're breathing in, you're feeling a movement, and most likely the movement is there's an expansion, right? Your hand pushes gently away from you, kind of fills up. And when you breathe out or exhale, the movement is your hand softens back in. And just follow that pattern about 3 or 4 breaths. And I'll be quiet so that you can completely bring your attention to your breath. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and open my eyes, drop my hand, and I wish we were in person together because I'd ask you how that was for you. Now, I don't assume that everyone felt the same thing, because what gets in the way of what we just experimented with, right? That feeling of when you breathe in, everything opens up, and when you breathe out, everything draws back in. That's how it's supposed to be, and I put that in little quotations because we don't always breathe the way we're supposed to breathe. And the thing that gets in the way of that type of natural breathing is, can you guess? Is tension, all right? So when we're muscularly tense or even mentally tense, right? If we're caught up in worry or overwhelm, our bodies respond to that, and our breath responds to it immediately. So let's do another little experiment. Take one hand, bring it just below your sternum. Again, relax your abdominal muscles as best as you can. Close your eyes. And this time, in just a moment, I'm going to ask you to do something on purpose, okay? So you're feeling your breath. Hopefully you're feeling your breath moving in and out. with ease. You're not forcing it. You're not trying to make the breath happen. It's happening. Okay, now in a few seconds, I'm going to say the word go. And when I say go, I would like you to tense your abdominal muscles a little bit, and but continue to watch and feel yourself breathing. Okay? So nice and relaxed right now. And go. So tense your abdominal muscles, but continue to watch and feel your breathing. So you're not doing anything different except holding your abdominals slightly tight. And notice if there's any change in your breathing. And then relax your abdominals again. And continue to observe what happens to the breath when your abdominals tighten or relaxed. Let's do it one more time. All right. Tense your abdominal muscles. And relax them. Okay. So again, I wish I could hear your experience, but what typically happens is because we tensed the abdominal muscles, our diaphragm can't push down as fully as it is designed to, right? So our breath, that mechanism, just speeds up a little bit. So we start to breathe more rapidly, and because we can't go deep with the diaphragm, more shallow. So it creates a faster, shallow breath. And like I said just a few moments ago, a fast, shallow breath is the stress breath. So if we had like everything perfect in our life, which is not possible for any of us, right? But if we could just wave a magic wand and everything was just beautiful, but we breathed fast and shallow, that alone would initiate a bit of anxiousness in us, a little bit of mental and body tension. So by changing our breath pattern, we start to interrupt or break up that anxious pattern, okay? So if you can probably guess then, if fast and shallow is an anxious breath, right? You turn that around, slow and deep is a calm breath. And that's what we're gonna practice today. That's what we're gonna look at today. All right, so hand to heart, hand to abdominals, and as best as you can, just relax these two areas, muscles in your chest and your abdomen. And also check your posture too, because posture has a big impact on breathing. So if you're rounded over like so, which many of us do, right, because we're used to leaning forward for a lot of things, just straighten up a little bit, not in a rigid way, just kind of line back up again, and relax these two areas. And again, I'm not assuming this is easy, but give it a try and just feel, even if it's just a breath at a time, you're feeling that the diaphragm has the space and the time to move at its pace, deeper, and that will draw the air in and down into your lungs, into the lower lobes of your lungs. And just relax with it. You know how to breathe. Your body knows how to breathe. And just feel that. All right, so let's do some movements, because tension, muscular tension, interferes with a slow, deep breath. So let's help our body to relax a little bit more so that our breath can assume its role, right? That natural breath. And I want to just say too, our breath, we're aiming in life to have it be flexible, so that if we're running upstairs or walking upstairs, our breath obviously is going to become a little quicker, right? To supply our body, to supply our muscles with a quicker turn of oxygen. But if we're sitting in a chair, right, and not having a lot of physical expenditure of energy, then we would want our breath to reflect that. So that's what I mean by flexibility. Okay, so it's not as though we're supposed to breathe the way we're talking about right now, 24/7. All right, so let's start by loosening up a little bit, and then we'll check back in with our breath along the way. All right, so again, sit comfortably. I'm assuming you're on a chair and you have some space around you. If not, just position yourself so that if you go like this with your arms, you're not going to bump into anything or anybody. Have your feet flat. So you don't want your feet like that, right? Or be sitting like this. Have your feet nice and flat and grounded. And again, take one hand to your chest and lift your chest up a little bit. And this will help to get your spine long. Then let your arms just drape down by your sides, almost as if your arms were a little bit weighted, all right? So they're a little extra heavy today. And as your arms drop down, feel that little bit, it's like a gentle drawing down or pull on your shoulders. Beautiful. And then just hold that for a moment. Great. And then tilt your head in one direction. You can mirror me, okay? So you're gonna tilt your head to your left. Be aware that you're breathing. So take a breath in. And when you're ready to, exhale, roll your neck and head over to your other shoulder. Again, you're being aware that you're moving and breathing. Breathe in, and then exhale over to the other side. And continue like this. You go at your pace. So I want you to start to follow the rhythm that comes from your breath. So again, I'll be rather quiet so that you can focus in and get used to listening to your breath and let your movement match it. And if this is fairly new to you and maybe seems a little strange or unusual, this kind of guidance, just go with it. Just go with the flow. Be open to trying new things and see what happens. So what we're really learning here is to bring our attention to our body and our breath. Great, let's take this through one more time. And using our body and breath to create a state of calm. It sounds easy enough, right? But we all need practice. Definitely need practice. Okay, keep your arms heavy. And maybe you recognize, that felt good, right? Those little gentle neck stretches. Definitely feels good for me. I'm always tight up here, right? So start to know your tight spots. Now, with our shoulders, arms are heavy. We want to isolate the movement of the shoulders. We're going to do some shoulder rolls. And you've probably done all of these things in the programs that you're in. So this probably isn't brand new to you, but we're doing it as a way to better understand how tension kind of creeps in and lives in our body and accumulates, and also how tension interferes with our breathing. So as tension in our body relaxes, we're going to breathe better. Great. One more time around. Okay. Bring your right hand on your lap, and then your left arm bends up a little bit. Everything we do here is gentle and easy, right? So there's no strain. It's not like exercise where you're trying to build or gain endurance. This is all just easy. We're trying to just help our body to relax more. So with your arm extended out, begin to circle back and up and over. So you're moving from the back of your shoulder and also from your rib cage. I don't know if you can see, I'm kind of turning my ribs as I move as well. So I'm getting a little motion in my spine, ribs, and shoulder. And this has benefit for your breathing, because as you make this movement, you're not only helping your shoulder to loosen up a little bit, and then one more time. All right, but there's little muscles between your ribs that move as you breathe, right? So your rib cage expands a bit so your lungs can inflate, and then when you breathe out, they relax back. And if those muscles are tight, right, we're getting resistance against the natural breath. So let's help our body to breathe better by loosening up all the muscles around the diaphragm and the muscles that work together with the diaphragm. All right, let's do the other side. So your left hand relaxes in your lap, and then it's almost like a swimming stroke, but just one-sided. And you're moving your shoulder, but also feel your rib cage move and rotate a little bit. Feel that lift. There's a little bit of a lift up of the ribs as you turn. Good. One more time. Very nice. And then again, just maybe shake it out, get your wrists in there as well, and fingers. How many of you notice that you hold tension in your hands a lot? I definitely do. So let's go into our fingers where we don't really think about moving them or stretching them. So circle, circle, circle. Start with one pinky, circle, 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 and just like a little pull. Nothing too strong, right? So you're just circling at the first knuckle and then pulling. And maybe you can hear my joints pop a little bit. And then you do the other hand. Go at your pace. All right, shake that out a little bit. Let's move right through the middle of the spine, of our torso, which is our spinal column. So bring your right hand to your chair. And if you can, stick your thumb like right underneath your leg or your hip. Let your left arm just drape down. And then start to lean your neck and your head over to your right. And lift your left rib cage up. So you're picking your ribs right up, almost as if your ribs were on a seesaw and you're picking up the left side. So the left side's going high, the right side's going down. Now, if it feels good for you, bring your left hand up on your shoulder, possibly lift your elbow up. And as your elbow goes up, think about lifting your ribs up even more. And for some of you, maybe you can extend your arm over your head, but only if that enhances the stretch. If it causes you to tighten up, you don't want to do that because that's counter to what we're trying to do. Take a full breath in and feel for the breath moving where you're stretching, right, in your left lung. So let's pause here for a moment. You're holding the stretch, not too strenuous. You feel the stretch though. Feel that space between your ribs opening. And then look for the breath to really fill up this part of your rib cage or your lungs. And then slowly release back down. And pause for a moment. And you may even feel a little lopsided, right? Like this area may feel a little more open. I don't know what your experience is, but I'm just maybe guessing what it is. Okay. Other hand, sit on your hip a little bit, and then we'll all start with right arm just drape down, and then your neck and your head go over to your left. Keep your shoulders relaxed, and then begin to hike up your right rib cage. Let it come right up out of your waist, again, as if your ribs are on a seesaw, and your right ribs are going up high, and your left down. If you'd like to, you can bring your hand here or lift your elbow up or possibly up and over. But that's not for everybody, okay? So you pick the best position for you. And now, as you kind of fine-tune the stretch and the position, now shift your attention to your breathing. You don't have to do anything special. You're just noticing your breath. Your body is breathing. Great. And feel for the breath possibly moving into the same area where you're feeling the stretch. Like the breath is filling in that area more. And that makes sense. So take an extra big inhale that is, and then bring it down. Beautiful. Well done. Okay. So what we're doing, right, besides stretching some of and relaxing some of the areas that tend to get tight in many of us, right? We're assisting our breathing mechanism by loosening up all that tension so that our breathing mechanism can happen with much more ease. All right, this is just like I hope you can see me okay. I'm gonna lean forward. I'll show you sideways too. I'm just kind of leaning forward on the chair and tilting forward. And we just did our ribs as a seesaw, right? Now I'd like you to imagine your rib cage almost like a pendulum that moves sideways like this. So you're leaning forward, you're supporting yourself with your hands on your lap, and then Let your ribs push way over to the left, as if it were swinging over, and then way over to the right. And back and forth like that. Your pace. Just swinging back and forth. So you're trying as best as you can to initiate this movement with your ribs. Your hips are moving a little bit, but you're not tilting, okay? So the hips are steady, more or less, and you're just swaying your ribs back and forth. Okay, come through the middle, and now we're gonna push the ribs forward and then backward. Forward, and you feel your spine arc, right? Your chest goes forward and your hips shoot back a little bit. And then as your ribs press way back, your spine accommodates and it rounds. Let's do that a few more times. So swing your ribs forward and back. And slow is better. Gentle, definitely. One more time. One more time forward. One more time back. Come through the middle. And we're going to put it all together. So we went side to side, and then we went forward and back. Now, almost as if we were sitting inside of a compass, we're going to take our rib cage around the compass, okay? So we're going to go north first, and then east, and then south, and then west, and then back up to north. All right? So continue. Move your ribs around the compass so you hit those 4 points, or those 4 directions. And press as best as you can. You're not straining, you're just reaching your ribs around. Opening up the little muscles all around your rib cage. This is excellent for your diaphragm. Your diaphragm's smiling right now. Okay, the next time you come north, go the opposite direction. So you're going counter. Keep at it. Good. We'll go one more time in this direction. And then when you land on north again, lift straight up. Beautiful. And check in. Notice how that feels. You just did something different, right? If we tend to, sit with a lot of tension in our body, we just kind of loosen that tension up a little, and that's going to have an impact. So notice that. You want to start to notice yourself. Notice how these techniques impact you at any given moment. All right, so feet flat, spine is upright. Take your right hand on your lap. Take your left arm out like that. Very relaxed through your shoulder, your elbow. There's no effort here. Now start to turn toward your left arm. So you're rotating your ribs a little bit. And you may just go a few degrees, and that may be perfect for you, right? And that's good. But keep following your spinal range of motion, this rotation. Keep your eyes or your gaze on your left thumb. And pause for a moment. So when your spine isn't rotating anymore, that's when you stop. You don't try to push past that, okay? So hang out there. Tune into your breath again. And because you're twisting, you're going to experience your breath a little bit differently. So just observe that. Take an inhale, and then as you exhale, keep following your left thumb back to the starting point and release. Let's do the other side. So your right arm up, look at your right thumb, sit long, right? Sit upright, and then start to follow your right arm, your right thumb, by rotating your ribs. Relax your shoulders, Relax any tension in your face. And notice your breathing. That's it. Take another breath or two here. Take any strain out of what you're doing, either the position or your breathing. Take a full inhale through your nose and release back. Well done. One more time, round back, and then come up through the middle and start to lift your arms up as you inhale. So this is inhale. When you've reached the top of your inhale, hands come together, exhale. And that's the pattern. I'm gonna close my eyes. Feel free to do the same so that you can focus on your breath rhythm. Inhaling brings you up. Exhale, everything settles. Go for about 3-4 rounds more. There's no rush. In fact, slow it down without strain. Maybe you're finishing up your last round of movement with breath. And when you do, you can keep your eyes closed if you'd like to. Let's go back to one hand at your heart space or your chest and your other hand at your abdomen. Remembering what we started to talk about earlier. The diaphragm wants to move very freely, and it presses downward when we breathe in. So by a relaxed abdomen, relaxed shoulders, relaxed back and rib muscles, the diaphragm can do its job. Breathing in and out of your nose. Next time we get together, I'll talk a little bit more about why that's so important, breathing with your nose and not with your mouth. And feel the presence of your breath, one after the other, like waves coming in at the shore. And relax around it. Just let it happen. Notice how you feel when you breathe more slowly and more deeply. Notice how your body feels and how it may even slow down your mind. So this is, even if you experience 1% more relaxation by what we just did, that's great. So I want you to pat yourself on the shoulder, pat yourself on the back. And the more you practice, that experience is going to become more familiar to you. The experience of relaxed breath, relaxed body, relaxed mind. So I encourage you to do any of what we did today. Some of the stretches that maybe you enjoyed most that you'll remember, or simply doing what we're doing right now, just tuning in to the process of your own breath and relaxing your body around it. Until next time.